Okay, so this is just a brief introduction to the Equations for Life project that I'm doing for my um, learning community with Math 151. This is the English 102 version, so you'll note the word count is higher than I would usually do for English 101, and there are more academic sources. Yeah, so let's just start there. But if you look, so basically, students are supposed to be using this assignment um, to practice mathematical reasoning and linguistic reasoning, that the principles that we've been talking about in class. They're supposed to choose a challenge, problem, or situation that they are dealing with and or that their fellow students might be dealing with right now. So an everyday life problem, one that's real to you as a student if you're the student writing, not just some random problem, but one you are dealing with currently and trying to work through a decision on. That's the goal, so that this assignment would then be used to help you process through that decision, to show how writing can do that, because that's always good. So students should learn to use mathematical writing systems to better understand and communicate an everyday life challenge and evaluate different solutions to that life challenge using forms of writing and mathematical analysis, which, if you've been in the class, you know that math is a form of writing and language. So what you will need to do, the writer has to choose a problem and then analyze and evaluate a specific everyday life challenge, problem, or situation that their classmates may be dealing with. The analysis and evaluation should be based on academic research of the chosen problem. So most of you will have a general idea of some of the factors, but to determine whether some of the things you think are factors in your brainstorm whether those are actually influencers, you should do deeper research into the topic through library databases and specifically academic sources, not just reliable or credible ones, to determine whether those things are worth being in there and to what degree those factors, variables, quantities should be involved. And so we may talk a little more about how to model that in class as time goes on. Then so as you write this essay, it should feel like a research paper that is using mathematical and linguistic reasoning and the language from both classes. So you need to make sure you name and describe the problem and the factors or variables that affect the decision that you need to make. The way you represent that should be both the quantities and values. And if you don't remember what those are, refer back to Pam's lecture resources, where she says quantities are things that could have a number value, things where they're not the actual numbers themselves or the values. So go and make sure you know what that means. Model or represent the situation using mathematical language, using a function, using graphs and tables and that sort of thing. Create a function that will help in decision making around the problem. Evaluate the problem using the function and various options or data for the factors or variables. So that's where your research might come in to influence, well, what data set am I using, or what values do I use? Do I have to kind of create quantitative values for a qualitative sense? Do I say angry is 5 and happy is 1 or something like that, and a scale between, or like versus dislike, something like that. We can talk more about that as you work through individual problems. And so, as an example, a writer might decide or might determine at what point, based on the research and variables, a relationship or a friendship or a car or a home or a place to rent would be most valuable or least beneficial. So you may be trying to figure these things out. Should I hang out with this person or not? And then what are the factors in that relationship? Should I be friends with this person or not? And what are the factors in that relationship? Should I buy a new car? Should I buy a used car? And then how do I take care of the variables involved with that? Does my income play a part? Does how much I think the car looks cool matter? What are the factors that are part of that mental decision-making process? Because we use the reasoning, the mathematical reasoning in our minds, sometimes intuitively, but what I want to see is you representing those things through writing and through the language of math and those principles we've learned about it. So that's why this is a nice mashup. So that's just an example as a place to start. The bare minimum to get a passing grade, you should have the word count, at least 1,300 words. You have to do 4,000 for the entire English 102. If it's English 101, you only have to do 3,000, so that word count might change if I use this for another thing, but you need to hit 1,300 words at a minimum. You need to be in APA format. You need to cite 7 reliable sources, and at least 4 of these should be academic sources. If it's English 102, you guys should already know not to use Wikipedia and other random reference or other random question answer sites. Use mathematical language and translate it appropriately for your readers. So you should be naming variables. You should be naming quantities. You should be talking through your reasoning process using those language, using formulas, functions, and that sort of notation that you've learned. And you should use 3 to 5 pictures, figures, graphs, or tables throughout to reinforce the points. And we talk a little bit about that in class. I think it's one of those things that is really rhetorically effective as we think about writing systems and pictographic language, and that pictographic forms or visual forms of representing information. So make sure you're doing those minimum things there, because otherwise you won't be able to make a passing grade. And so that's the bare minimum requirements to succeed at this assignment. Hopefully, the goal is that you'd be able to take this assignment, do something meaningful with both math and writing to help you better analyze and come to a conclusion about the best way to handle a problem or challenge that you're dealing with or that your classmates are dealing with. So hopefully this will be fun. This is the beginning of a very fun first unit if we're in the spring 2020 section, which we are right now at least. So enjoy this project. Try and find a way, or your own individual way into it, and make it meaningful to you, because there's a lot of room in the project for what you could choose. There are some specific things I'm looking for, but generally it has a fairly broad approach, so that each of you can drill down very specifically into something that's going to be meaningful for you, that you process through language and math. Cool. Have fun. See you in class.